just great. He has sprung onto this NFL scene, and he's taking control. He's the future of the NFL, and that's another reason why I think that Robert Griffin III is more valuable than Andrew Luck. You look at the Michael Vick, Robert Griffin III, Cam Newton. You look at all of these West Coast style running quarterbacks, and they're starting to take over the league. I mean, you're looking at some great quarterbacks trying to become more athletic so that they can keep up with these guys. I'm starting to think that running quarterbacks are the future of the NFL. I'm starting to think that the NFL might be turning a little bit into a combination of the previous NFL and college football. I think it might sort of be starting to mesh a little bit, because you look at the running quarterbacks coming out of college, it's, there's just as much of them being drafted in the first round as pro quarterbacks being drafted in the first round. That was proven when the Colts picked Andrew Luck and then the Redskins picked Robert Griffin III. I mean, look at that. You got two people right there. There's your sample group. Two people, one's running, one's pro, picked in the first round of the NFL draft. Both pretty great skill sets, but Robert Griffin III can excel, and Cam Newton can excel, because here's the thing. When defensive coordinators have to make a game plan against running quarterbacks, a lot of the plays they're going to run involve the defensive ends just sort of not going at the quarterback, not trying to get a sack, and that's huge when you're on a team that has a great defensive end. That's huge, because they'll just sort of send them out on a quarterback contained thing where they're just sort of standing towards the side, not really paying any attention, so that if the quarterback tries to run that way, they can come in and contain him. But then that gives the quarterback so much more time to throw the ball or find a hole up the middle to run in. It's just that's why I think that Cam Newton will be the best quarterback in the NFL in these coming years. I think that he will be so valuable to this team, to the Carolina Panthers, and I think he'll become a household name. I mean, he's already a household name in the NFL, but I think he's got a great career ahead of him. I think that he's got a very, very promising career. So, we're at number 6 now. We're going to take a short break once more when we get to number 5, and then I'll give you your top 5. So, right before the break, Matt Ryan, your number 6 best quarterback in the NFL. And I'm sure you guys at home are going, Matt Ryan, where did this guy come from? Well, look at him. I mean, he's so good. Maybe Cam Newton could, maybe I made a mistake. Cam Newton might be number 6, Matt Ryan might be number 7. But I definitely think that Matt Ryan has a great skill set. He's so smart on the football field. He's so accurate. And I think that with the weapons he has, I think that he could lead the Atlanta Falcons far into the playoffs, perhaps even to the Super Bowl. I think that's overdue for the Falcons, and I think it's overdue for Matt Ryan. He's entering his 5th year into the league. Him and Joe Flacco were my 2 favorite rookie quarterbacks in that year, and they're, probably the 2 only rookie quarterbacks from that year that have made that big of an impact. But I think that they had so much skills. They were just so talented. And what they did for their teams. I mean, the Ravens weren't great before they got Joe Flacco, and the Falcons were terrible. I mean, but then the Falcons have put together this great team. Roddy White, he's going to be fantastic, and I think he could potentially take them at least to the NFC Championship game. I think that there's no question how talented the Atlanta Falcons are. No question at all. No question how talented Matt Ryan is. He's not on a lot of top 10 lists, but I like this guy. I think that this guy has a ton of talent. So, my final prediction for Matt Ryan, I think that he will have the best touchdown to interception ratio in the NFL next year. I think that he's that smart and that accurate and that good of a player. And that is my final prediction for Matt Ryan. We'll move on to number 5 after this. This is In the Pocket. We'll be right back. And we are back here on In the Pocket with Daniel Levy. I am Daniel Levy, and I've given you my top 10 quarterbacks so far. Let's review before we move on to the top 5. We had Jay Cutler at number 10, Matthew Stafford at number 9, Joe Flacco at number 8, Cam Newton at number 7, and Matt Ryan at number 6. We're going to move on to number 5 in just a moment. But first, please, text in, call in, whatever you need to do. We haven't gotten any questions during this segment, and I was really hoping for a discussion here, and I still am. I think that we could have a lot of fun, you and me, me and the audience. I think that you and I could have a ton of fun, just debating and talking and discussing my top 10 list, because there are a lot of controversial quarterbacks on here. Most people wouldn't have Jay Cutler on their list. A lot of people wouldn't have Matt Ryan or Joe Flacco. Cam Newton's been on a few, but he also hasn't been on a lot. So please, 312-550-3914, write it down, memorize it, figure out how you can get me, how you can text me. Obviously the lines are pretty clear right now, so please call in, text in with any questions you have about this list, about the NFL, about anything you want. So, without further ado, your top 5 quarterbacks in today's NFL. Number 5, Ben Roethlisberger, Big Ben. Big Ben is he's still hanging in there. He's still a very, very good quarterback, and he's still leading the Steelers to a lot of great things. I mean, he's getting years. He's in he's getting older. He's in his ninth. He's entering his 9th year in the NFL. He's so consistent. He's so talented, and he's so consistent that it doesn't matter what happens to him. He's so tough. He's so big that he can stay in the NFL. He's so tough, and that's really how he got the nickname. Besides that, and him being a complete giant, that's really how he got Big Ben. He's just a tough guy. 6'5", 241 pounds, and you can't compete with that. How are you gonna blitz a safety or a corner? How are those little tiny guys gonna sack Ben Roethlisberger? I mean, he's so good. Listen to his stats from last year. He had 4,077 yards, 63.2 completion percentage, averaged 7.95 yards per catch per completion, 21 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. His longest pass of the year was for 95 yards, and listen to those stats. The touchdown to interception ratio is a little bit concerning, but that's what you get when you have a quarterback like Ben Roethlisberger. He's talented, but he's not, but he's risky. He makes risky throws. But the thing with him is he consistently gets the job done. We have a question now from Jimmy in Carolina. Do you think Cam Newton is going to be experiencing a slump this year? Absolutely not. And that's why I have him on my top 10 at number 7. I think that Cam Newton doesn't have time for a slump. He's proven himself already. He proved himself in his rookie year. But he hasn't, but he's not a star yet. He was a star last year, but that doesn't mean he's going to be a star every year. So I understand, the sophomore slump and everything, but I don't think that that's going to be the case for Cam Newton. He's got such a raw skill set, and, you look at the guy. He's such a great athlete, and he was consistent at Auburn, and he's being consistent with, he's been consistent with Carolina, and I read you the stats. He's so good. I mean, how do you can't compete with this guy. He's a big guy, 6'5", 245 pounds, pretty similar to Ben Roethlisberger's build. He's 23 years old, and he's been in the league for a year. And look at what he's done. He's shattered tons of records for rookie quarterbacks. He's shattered them. They might not be broken again. I mean, well, I shouldn't say that. We've got a ton of great rookies coming into the year this year and next year. So I shouldn't say that they won't be broken again. But he had the best rookie season that any rookie quarterback has had in the history of the NFL. He was that good last year. So to answer your question, Jimmy, I don't think that there will be a sophomore slump for Cam Newton this year. Anyway, real quick, back to Ben Roethlisberger, and I'm loving the questions. Thank you so much, Jimmy. 312-555-3914 is the number. Please text in, call in, all that good stuff. I feel like I'm a broken record now, just repeating that, but I can't stress it enough. It's so great to hear from so many people. We've gotten a lot of questions so far, and I'm expecting and hoping for a lot more. So please text in, call in, and do all that stuff. And, yeah. So, Ben Roethlisberger, bottom line, there's a reason he's the fifth best quarterback in the league, and that's because he's consistent. He lives up to his expectations, and that's what you want in a quarterback. Obviously you want a quarterback that's going to exceed expectations, and a lot of the time Roethlisberger will, but he's never let the Steelers down. He's always been a good quarterback for the Steelers, and he's so tough, and he's for such a big guy, he's incredibly mobile. I mean, he can get out of that pocket if he needs to. And we have a question from Frank in Chicago. Frank says, I disagree with you, man. Tim Tebow's a football god, and he is a man we can all be proud of. He is way better than Cam Newton. First of all, Frank, I appreciate the question, and please don't take this the wrong way, but you are crazy if you think that Tim Tebow is better than Cam Newton. I love the question, but I cannot disagree with you more. And simply because you look at what they did. I mean, Tim Tebow had a few lucky throws. He had a lucky throw downfield with Denver at the end of the game to win the playoff game against the Steelers. But he hasn't you look at the stats. I mean, I read you Cam Newton's stats. I've read you Cam Newton's stats. Now let's listen to Tim Tebow's, and then I'll read you Cam Newton's one more time, and I'll ask for a response from you, Frank. Okay, so just listen to this. Tim Tebow, 2011 regular season, 1,729 yards to Cam Newton's total passing yards, 4,057. That right there, I mean, that's a pretty big difference. And then you look at the completion percentages. Cam Newton had a completion percentage of... Oh, shoot. I don't have it. Sorry about that. I do not have Cam Newton's completion percentage. I will get that in a moment. But look at Tim Tebow's. Tim Tebow's 46.5 completion percentage. Cam Newton's is... Okay, here's Cam Newton's 60%. He had a 60% completion percentage. And, I mean, you can't argue with what these stats are showing. Tim Tebow's... in my opinion, Tim Tebow is not a starting quarterback. He's a decent quarterback that's gotten lucky a few times. He's, Frank, I'd love to hear your rebuttal, but let's compare the stats a little bit more, just because, I really want to get this point across that Tim Tebow is not and never will be a Cam Newton. Last year, Tim Tebow had 12